The thing about depression is when you have depression, it drains your energy without you really having to do anything strenuous. You're used to exercising a lot and then getting tired that way. After you've ran 2 miles or 3 miles, after you've lifted weights for an hour or whatever, you're used to the logic behind this equals this, and that's why I'm tired. But with depression, it really doesn't make any sense why you're tired all the time. You know, depression is a mental illness, and you know, being tired is one of the symptoms of it. And none of it makes sense. How can you be tired? You just had a 8 hour sleep, and yet you're already wanting to go back to sleep when you wake up in the morning. And then you try and you can't get comfortable enough, and you're still tired. And then you have no idea how to do anything after that because it just doesn't make sense. I know this, okay? So, in an effort to fight how I'm feeling right now, I am going to kind of break down some of my creative works here. And let's be real, I don't even feel confident and comfortable in calling it my creative works because it just feels like I'm disrespecting actual creative people. But um, I'm too humble. Let's put it that way. Um, so this I don't have a name for this. I will say I was very motivated to make this specific piece, and we'll get to these um, eventually. Maybe not in this video, but depends on how long I talk about this. But um, this piece right here, um, I made it when I was still living in my car back in 2022. There's the date right there, 2022. I was living in my car, and I lived in my car for actually, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. Maybe, definitely four, but I don't know if it was five. Anyways, I lived in my car for a while, many years. And I was living in my car during the COVID pandemic. And I was able to survive. Um, the government was giving people subsidized money, subsidies, since everyone was basically on lockdown, which was wild to think about. That happened in our lifetime, and so so I had a lot of time to draw, and it was around this time as well that well, it was after that actually, that it was after the lockdowns were letting go, releasing. People were, and regular life was starting to pick back up again. That I started seeing a therapist, and and in one of our sessions, I was mentioning to her uh, about how I have an interest in psychology, and that word right there is called. Uh, hold on, this is a psychological journey, and then I told her also that I was like philosophical a little bit, and then she goes, and then so this is very much inspired by her words. She goes, it's a psychological journey, which is that right there, and then philosophical motivation. um, which which spoke to me. I would have thought it would be the other way around. Philosophical journey, psychological motivation. And the reason why it resonated with me so much is because for the first time someone was able to help me see things in a different perspective, which is what she's all about. Um, Her business is called Zez Perspectives, and so psychology, the study of psychology, can be very, I was gonna say dry. It can be very dry because you get the books and you read the studies, um, and then it's one of those, the pitfall that I was falling into was thinking that everything had to make sense. Um, that everything had to be 2 + 2 = 4, right? Um, and so when she goes psychological journey, I just love the dichotomy of that so much, because the journey in and of itself is not logical. It's not rational or even reasonable at times. And so to say that you're on a psychological journey, I mean, it makes sense if you're reading it at face value. Like, yeah, technically you're on a journey. On your brain is so complex that your brain is going to be physiologically different from when your 20s to your 30s to your 40s to your 50s. And then if you're comparing your 20-year-old brain to your 50-year-old brain, it is going to be even more crazy, right? Um, and so, I mean, we are on a psychological journey if you're doing it right. Um, and so that's where the philosophy comes in. And she goes philosophical motivation. So it's like, well, something has to be motivating us to continue to go down this journey. And oftentimes we're motivated by our ideologies. And what are ideologies if not philosophies, right? So I've, I'm not totally oblivious to the works of Jean-Paul Sartre and his work in existentialism, right? Um, there's the philosophy of a nihilistic person, right? Nihilism. Um, and the reason, I guess, again, I'm talking about this specific piece of mine, again, I feel so arrogant. It's calling it a piece, as if it's something that deserves to be hung up in a museum. Um, Philosophy and psychology, right? They're kind of one and the same thing, and I never really considered that before. Um, if you know me, which you don't, because I don't let people know me. But if I did, you would probably think of me as someone who knows a thing or two. Um, and so, like, to think that psychology and philosophy are connected, I mean, that kind of plays into what I am all about. And I'm all about the connection in all things, because everything is connected. Some people might disagree with that. Um, I, I, I would say we're all connected in some way or form. It's just, it's not always apparent how we're connected. Um, and so, psychological journey, philosophical motivation. Um, we also text each other like a ton, which I'm not 100% sure how much of that is um, just like part of the job description of being a good therapist or not. Uh, because I had read this book, called A Life Worth Living, that was written by a not extremely popular um, psychologist or therapist named oh my god, for whatever reason I'm thinking of the dancer Martha Graham, but uh, Linhan, uh, Martha Martha Linhan, I think was her name. Um, and she sort of is credited as being the pioneer of dialectical behavior therapy, which is important because it it basically says you need to have a stronger connection with your patients. Basically, saying that don't don't be so black and white with it. Like, I think for a while the practice of mental health on the side of the healers, um, they they were very much by the book, um, because they're human, right? And so we tend to, and then so there's a aspect of like human biology that goes into this. Like I always forget the name of the study of human culture, the social sciences, but like if you look at the social sciences that sort of examine human behavior, they're a little bit of psychologists too, and so when you look at the fossil records or whatever, and you see how human civilizations have evolved and changed throughout the years, let's not forget we are animals. We still have parts of our brain that are physiologically similar to how we've been for 30,000 years. Um, and so some of these healers were missing the human component to it. Uh, they were getting stuck in this loop of knowledge that they had been accustomed to. And so here's Marsha Linham, I believe, Marsha G. Linham, I think. And she comes around with just this completely different point of view that she ascertained through very difficult life experiences. Um, and one of the like guidelines in her dialectical behavior therapy was basically giving your clients access to you 24/7, which at the time was really unheard of because these doctors were dealing with patients critically. Like, they were dealing with people who were actually very wild and crazy, and these doctors, it was impossible for them to think of that as part of the healing process. And then she comes around and has incredible results with this, and then you have other philosophers and philosophers of the social sciences, philosophers of the mental sciences, like Abraham Maslow, uh, Carl Jung, or Andrew Jung, um, and they come around with their psychology insights, and all that to say, I'm not sure how much of the communication that I have with my therapist is that, or how much of it is actually just this genuine connection that we have, and it can be both. Is basically what I'm saying. It can be both. So, anyways, in one of our text exchanges, I was just being a lot to handle, um, and in my manic depression, I was just like texting her 24/7, just like nothing, just a bunch of nothingness. And eventually she texted me back this right here. And it says, hang in there, buddy. That's basically what it was. And, it's what, 4 words? Hang in there, buddy. Um, which was a simple response to like a tsunami of just mumbo jumbo that I was spilling to her. And it affected me enough to want to include it in this. Uh, this right here, it says use your smart. That's another thing that I discovered throughout our therapy sessions. Um, for a long time, I had been dumbing myself down um, for many different complicated reasons. One, the biggest endeavor I ever went on was opening up my own dance studio, and not being able to handle um, just just not being aware of what that was gonna mean. And so when it closed down, it really hurt deeply, and kind of sent me on this um, slow spiral down into my depression. And so I stopped trying as hard. Um, I stopped being motivated. Um, and then all these years later, I'm in a therapy session with her, and she goes, "You're very smart. You're very intelligent." And in my head, I'm being a little bit of a petulant little child. I'm just kind of being like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're just telling me what I want to hear because I'm paying you." Blah 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 blah. But I included it here because obviously she's right. Like, I'm clearly very intelligent, and I can't be afraid to use my brains, and I haven't been for a long time. So use your smart. And there's one more too. This right here. It says struggling to become. I don't know if you saw that right. Yeah, struggling to become. Uh, and it's basically saying, hey, I'm in this state of place right now, in my journey in my life, where I'm I'm kind of just floating in these stale waters, not really doing anything. Uh, I'm just floating there like if I had just survived a big crash. Um, the destruction of my dreams. So I had just been sitting there for a while, for years, um, not really doing anything. And then I'm in therapy because I want to change that. I want to I'm dedicated to my personal growth. Um, and, and, uh, and that was another text that she sent me because in my craziness, I am able to form a couple of coherent sentences. And I think in one of those sentences, I was asking her a question, and then she just simply responded, "Because it's your struggle to become." Um, that's another thing I love about her too. It's never about diagnosing me. It's always about appreciating my story. Um, she is actually a very brilliant person. Someone who I think is going to be who's going to be responsible for a wave of people who are able to better understand how to heal, whether they're doing the healing themselves or whether they're helping other people heal, which is probably one and the same thing, to be honest. Um, so we'll leave that there for now. I was singing a lot yesterday, so it's kind of hard to talk right now. I sing my goddamn heart out. We have other pieces here for sure. Um, and I guess I'll touch on this one just a little bit briefly. Um, this one says Apex Legends, which is a video game that was like the next Call of Duty for me. I mean, Fortnite technically was the next Call of Duty, but for me, at however old I was, like in my mid 20s when Apex came out, for me Apex was the Call of Duty. Um, and so It says right here, just be, because that's another point of contention, or I don't know if contention is the right word, but another point of well, I guess contention is the right word, because it's not like this is an easy process, and definitely I fight my therapist a lot on her insights. Um, why, I don't know, because I'm self-destructive, but just be, it basically is something that we do discuss in therapy, which is to be myself. I mean, it's never easy to be oneself. When you're constantly changing and growing. And let's be real here. I am talking from personal experiences. Someone like Donald Trump is very simple. There is not much going on in terms of his spiritual waters. Shallow. Okay? So this doesn't apply to someone like him. And let's be real, there are a lot of people like him because, hello, people elected him. Okay? With that being said, there are people who have the potential to transform their waters. So we're talking about spiritual waters being shallow and having the capability of metamorphosizing or expanding, which would be impossible to think about. You don't think about it like it's a spiritual alchemy. Um, and so when I say just be, um, it means for me just accepting where I am in my journey, in my philosophical, motivated, psychological journey. It's a mouthful right there. Um, just be. Um, it's two words, and it includes being okay with where you're at, while at the same time building towards a future. Uh, so for me, it's about being in this place where I am trusting myself about the work I'm putting in to grow, to be better as a person, and at the same time thinking about what I want the next 5 or 10 years to look like, or even just 6 months. It's not easy, although you look at something that says just be and you would think, oh, well, it's just two words, it can be easy. Um, let's make these waters deeper. Let's not be shallow. Let's look at a word like just be, or two words like just be, and not just take it at face value. Let's really think critically here. This is panic and anxiety because my emotions really would flip flop um, a lot. Uh, I was really all over the place in terms of my emotions, and I'm much more stable now. Thank you to Zora and my therapist. Well, Zora is my therapist. Thank you very much, because um, well, I still get down and I still get a little crazy sometimes. At least I know why, and knowing why is only half the battle. Um, it's part of the battle of just being, right. And like I said, it's connected. The psychological journey, the philosophical motivation, is all connected to the idea of just being, to just be. Uh, Apex Legends, obviously a video game. I love video games. Still go back and forth. I've been looking at more, and this is gonna be a little bit of a tangent, but not really. But I've been going back and forth in my mind about what video games means to me, and so I've been looking into some studies about video games. Obviously, there's been a lot of them, and it's ever evolving and growing. And so there's when it comes to the study of video games, it's a double-sided blade because it's awesome that it's so new and so fresh. There's so much there that can be thought about. But at the on the other side of that too is like, well, there's also the potential to get a lot of things wrong because there's incomplete information out there. And if you look at like the study of space, right, astronomy, if you look about like that's about as complete as knowledge as you're gonna get. Like you're gonna get the mathematical equations and stuff like that. Gravity, right? Like what can be more solid than the idea of gravity. We can calculate gravity. We know its effects and stuff like that. And even with something like that, the rules of gravity sort of kind of go out the window when you talk about matter and antimatter, the relationship between particles like the Higgs boson, and things start to break down, and so it just goes to show, man. I don't think there is such a thing as certainty. There really is not, for better and for worse, right? Um, that's another reason why I don't trust people like Donald Trump, because they're so certain. They're so certain that what they're doing is right. They're so certain that they're building towards something that's going to be certain, and it's not like that. And the reason why that's so dumb to me is because then you sacrifice flexibility. You are short sighted, shallow, and when things inevitably change, you're not gonna react to it well, and we're all gonna pay the price when you're that kind of person in that position, you know. Um, so and but that's why he's going after the education department, because it's about thinking critically. And the people who elected him, obviously, this country has shown the world, we're not trying to think critically. We want everything to be simple, simple life. Read Fahrenheit 451, please. Please read Fahrenheit 451, because in that book, Ray Bradbury perfectly is a prophet in that book, and he basically goes, "Hey, listen, this is what people want. People are building themselves towards this life." And even Orson Welles said it in The Time Machine, like obviously differently, but not that differently. Both sci-fi, technically. Um, they both basically said that, hey, listen, humanity, society, like America, we're trending towards we're trending towards wanting to, and Wally said it too. Oh, y'all remember Wally, Disney's Wally? I mean, that's basically what I'm saying right there. Like, humanity is doesn't want to think. Humanity doesn't want a complicated life, because they're not able to handle it. And I get it. You think I was able to handle all that complex, all this that I'm saying right now when I was living in my car, smoking weed every day, just numbing myself to life? No, no. But that's where we are as a country, man. Uh, this is this right here is a heart. If you couldn't tell, just a beautiful little heart. Obviously, you can see the axe right there, right here. There's a little bit of blood. It's kind of like a little fish, but with its mouth sewed shut. That was initially me keeping a tally mark on like the number of games I won. And also I was just kind of bored too, so I just made like tallies on a blank page before any of this was even conceptualized. And then one day I just decided, this was after I had started therapy. I think this was after my third session of therapy. I started to I can't explain to you guys how much I needed therapy. My heart was my heart was in critical condition. Like, you know, you look at officers, and they're supposed to serve and protect, right? And so, assuming for the sake of clarity, we don't have corruption, right? In the example I'm about to give, if you're hurting and you're in pain, you have your leg broken or something like that, an officer can be counted on to help, right? if you're white. um, but the kind of pain I was in, and I think the kind of pain most of society is in, can't be. You can't call an officer for that kind of help. It's not the kind of help that can happen instantly, which is what makes it very difficult, at least for American society. Um, Humans are constantly wanting to um, work towards comfortability when that's never been our MO. That's never been nature's MO. Nature has never evolved us to be comfortable. Uh, we 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 have legs to run long distances because it was hard to catch prey, and so we would have to stalk them for hours and hours and hours. Um, Water was scarce, so nature gave us the ability to learn, um, to build baskets to carry water and draw like jugs and stuff like that, to be able to craft stuff out of mud, leaves, right, hojas, to like sew together and stuff. So um, when I went to my therapist for like the first time, I immediately cried, um, because I knew it was a place where I could. I knew I finally had help, and she was helping me unsew my mouth, like this fish's mouth is sewed. The damage that had been done to my heart with all of this. Um, this is a liquidy goo that my heart was finally able to spring out from. And then there's clouds, which is sort of like an ominous sort of thing. And then this pink is just kind of like my soul. Um, there's like a little rooster in the middle, just because just because it plays to my heritage. I'm Latino, baby, and the rooster is significant spiritually, and it represents my people. I'm from Mexico. I'm not from Mexico. My mom's from. Well, I am from Mexico. My mother is from Mexico. My father is from El Salvador. So chickens and roosters, at least on my mom's side, is definitely meaningful because they had to raise them, they had to kill them and eat them. So not only were they pets, they were also a source of life and food. When you have to raise something and then kill it for subsistence, it's something that shapes and transforms you. It helps you realize the importance of life and how precious it is. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are people who go through that experience and are damaged by it because they didn't have the proper spiritual guide. So, and it's not easy, man. I think we are in a lack of spiritual guides, and I'm not talking about like the church, although there are some people who do good work in that field. Uh, but I'm talking about in term. But like, if you look at intellectuals, there tends to be a pattern of church folk and intellectuals kind of not seeing eye to eye on a lot of stuff. Uh, I'm impartial to the people who can combine those both worlds, um, and like it really is amazing to see, because I have heard of people who can do that, and every time they do it, I'm just always in awe of it. So we've talked about those three pieces. That's kind of just a bunch of blah blah blah. I could go about it some more though. Let the fear subside is what it says in this yellow section right there. Let the fear subside. Um, that's another thing that my therapist said to me. I've been very motivated by her to be creative again and let myself dream. speak unabashedly, unequivocally, without fear. Anything I say doesn't have to be life or death. At the same time, I don't have to worry about saying the right thing or the wrong thing. I am who I am. And who I am is hard to find sometimes. This right here is my sign, my Pisces sign. It's like a fish, but it's also kind of like an eyeball. And then here it says moving forward, also done in 2022. And it kind of looks like a flag, doesn't it? Moving forward has been another very deep, very rich two words that mean so much. It means moving forward in life, moving past the pain, which is where this again comes in. Let the fear subside. Uh, when you get hurt, you don't want to get hurt again, and so you learn to develop a fear of whatever got you hurt in the first place. So I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm done for now. I'll be back though. Gotta keep faith. Gotta stay strong. Gotta keep doing the things that make us live.